Throughout the ages, history has been altered by word of mouth and the misrepresentation of those who might not have been present when some of the world's most significant events took place. Channelers Barry and Connie Strom bring through the spirits of those who actually witnessed or took part in these historical events and lets them tell their stories in their own words. Welcome to Channeling History. And now, here are your hosts, Barry and Connie Strom.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Channeling History. We're the only show where we speak to the souls that made things happen. And we're brought to you on the ParaX Radio Network. I'm Barry Strom, your host. I'll be doing the channeling tonight, and I would like to welcome all of you to our annual Christmas special show.
And I'm Connie Strom, your co-host, and I would also like to welcome you to our show. Tonight, we're going to channel the Holy Family, Joseph, Mary, and Jesus. They will tell you about the birth of Jesus and much more. If you'd like to interact with us in the chat room, just go to ParaX Radio Network and click chat. In our last show, we channeled with George Washington, Abraham Lincoln, and Ronald Reagan. They discussed their opinion of our modern government, and it was a very informative and inspirational show. The video is available on our YouTube channel. The channel is in the name of Barry Strom and has over 554 videos. If you'd like to download the videos, just go to Podomatic.com and search Channeling History. So please tell your friends about us so we can continue to grow our audience.
Okay, tonight we're not going to be doing the usual disclaimer or prayer. With these three guests that we have tonight, there is absolutely no need for either one of them.
So we have a great show tonight, so let's begin. We're going to begin by channeling Joseph, the father of Jesus. Joseph, thank you for coming and speaking with us tonight. Would you like to begin with a message?
Yes, I would. I would especially like to thank you for allowing me to come through on this special season. It's the time of the year that millions and billions of people celebrate the birth of my child. Imagine being able to make that statement. God selected my soul to come back and to be the father of Jesus. It was an absolutely incredible honor. I cannot tell you what it was like to be able to actually hold the baby Jesus. We realized that he was going to be very special, but we certainly never realized that our child was going to speak words that would affect billions of lives over thousands of years. Today, many people do not believe that my son ever lived his life or that God even exists. I would tell you unequivocally that they are mistaken. Individuals that do not believe in God are missing the most joyous part of life. It is that belief that will bring them the true happiness. And it is that belief that will indeed assure that when they return to heaven, that they will have a wonderful judgment and they will have time to live in the realms of the most miraculous place. I want you to understand that we lived a normal life. We had children. I loved Mary. We loved our family, and we did all that we could to protect them. Today, many parents neglect their children. Sometimes it's because of the environment around them. Sometimes it's because they just simply are self-centered and feel that they are more important than the offspring that they bring into life. So tonight is a very special night, and I hope that you will tell all of your friends about it and have them listen and understand that Christ truly existed.
Joseph, how long were you and Mary married when Jesus was born?
When Jesus was born, we had been married about 10 years. We had had a difficult life. We had had 2 children before him, and we did what we could to make things as happy for our family as we could. We knew that the angels were coming to us. We did not totally understand truly what of which they were speaking, but we had lived a normal life. For the early period of our lifetimes, we were actually no different than anyone else. The angels told us that it was going to change, but none of us truly understood just how much.
Did you take the children along with you to Bethlehem?
Yes. At that time, we had 2 children, and we were traveling as a family. We took along Mary's mother. Anne was with us. We did what we needed to do. The Romans had proclaimed that they wanted us to appear for a census. The Romans were very powerful, and when they asked you to do something, you certainly did it. I had great trepidation traveling because I knew that Mary was very close to giving birth. In those days, we did not have any way that we could really keep track closely of time or know exactly when a child was going to appear. But we knew that it was a journey that we had to undertake, and the angels told us that was nothing to fear, that they would guide us and that they would help us, and no matter what happened, that all would be well.
Did the angels have anything else to say before you went to Bethlehem?
They told us that we were going to be the parents of a very important child. They told us that the baby was going to do wonderful things. They told us that the baby was going to be someone that would speak to the people, that he would speak wonderful words, and that his words would be very, very important to many. We had no way of knowing that his words would have the effect that they would have. But we understood that this was going to be a special baby. We just never was able to comprehend what the angels were truly telling us.
How much did you know about what was going to take place once you got to Bethlehem?
Once we got to Bethlehem, we knew that Mary was very close to giving birth. We found a place. The innkeepers were very kind. We told them that Mary was about to have a baby, and did they have somewhere that we could stay for several nights. We had no idea that we would be staying with them as long as we did. But the innkeeper and his wife were absolutely wonderful to us. They gave us a room where we could be separate. The rest of our family was in another room. Keep in mind, in those days, travel was very, very difficult. There were no restaurants. There were no hotels. There were no places. You had to rely on individuals to take you in. There were inns, but they were very primitive. And we were blessed by the angels to be led to one where the owners were exceptional people.
So then Jesus was not born in a barn and did not sleep in a manger?
No, he did not sleep in a manger, and he was not born in a barn. He was born inside the building of the innkeepers. They assisted Mary the wife did. I kept the children in another room until we heard the cry of the newborn. But there was no need to live in a manger. Now, the innkeepers did have a barn, and they had animals. They had individuals that worked for them and assisted them. But we were not required to stay in a barn and put our newborn child in a manger.
Did you have any idea that you were going to have to flee to Egypt at that point?
No. When we first arrived, we felt that we were going to just simply do our business, register for the census, and then we would return to our home. We had no idea that the baby was going to be in great danger. Shortly after the baby was born, we were cautioned by the angels that there was a possibility that we would have to flee for our lives, and that King Herod was about to try to find the newborn. We did not disclose to many people that we had a newborn baby, and no one spoke to the Romans of the fact that we had just had a child.
What did you think when Gabriel told you that Herod wanted to kill your baby?
We were sickened. We had no idea that our baby was going to be a threat to the king. Herod was very, very important. He was the ruler in charge of our area. He knew Tiberius, the emperor. He had great powers. At first, we wondered how he could want to kill our baby. You see, the angels did not give us all of the details at the time, but they said that we should be cautious and that we should not tell anyone of our presence.
Did he also tell you how you were going to afford to travel to Egypt?
No, that was one thing that we worried. We felt that if the Romans truly wanted to kill our baby, that returning home was not going to be the answer. The Romans were so powerful. We felt if we returned home that they would be able to track us down and hurt our baby no matter where we went. The angels told us not to worry, that there would be an answer for us, but that we should simply remain in the inn and not tell anyone of our presence.
What did you think when you saw the wise men appear?
We were astonished. We were poor people, and we had never seen anything like it. There were 3 men that were in charge, and with them they had many bodyguards and security people. There were probably 40 to 50 people involved in their party. You see, in those days, it was very dangerous, and the leaders of the group came to us. Now, keep in mind that this was not immediately following the birth of our baby. Probably 2 months had expired, and the angels told us that we should just simply remain and wait and that we would receive answers. When the wise men came, they informed us that they had met with Herod and that Herod had asked them to give him the location of the newborn baby. Herod told them that he wanted to come and to hold the baby and to basically worship it, because through prophecy he had been told that this was indeed a very special child, and that he felt that it might be the King of the Jews that the people had been waiting for. They told us that we needed to leave, that they felt they were not going to give Herod the location, and that they were going to return without speaking to them. They brought presents for us. They gave us gifts of gold, frankincense, myrrh, and they said that we needed to flee for their safety and that we should use these presents to pay for the journey. They said that we should get out of Judea and that we should go to Egypt where we would be safe, and that their gifts would be enough to finance the trip and to live once we arrived in Egypt.
Who all was in your party when you left for Egypt?
It was Mary and myself, Anne, and the two brothers and sisters of Jesus. We were the family, and we traveled together. There were times that we met people that assisted us. The angels had cleared the way for us and had spoken to individuals, and we were guided and protected throughout our route.
Thank you for joining us this evening, Joseph. Do you have a final message for our listeners?
Yes. I was the father of Jesus. It is amazing that my soul can say that. I had served God many times in previous lives, and he had selected my soul to come back. He knew that he was going to come back as Jesus, and he wanted to live a human life. He wanted to be as any other human. He wanted to see the suffering. He wanted to see the good things of humans. The blessings that God has bestowed upon me are beyond description. I did my best with the baby Jesus. We assisted him. We taught him. We told him the information that the angels gave us as he grew up and could understand. We stayed in Egypt until it was safe to return. It was several years. Herod died shortly after we arrived, but his son, who took over rule for Judea, wanted to be the king of the Jews, and we felt that there was still much risk. We waited until the angels came to us and informed us that it would be safe to return. We were homesick to return to our homeland, to our friends. And the time came that the angels informed us that it would truly be safe to return, but that we should move to a location further north from where we lived. We followed the instructions that were given to us by the angels, and when the time came, we took our family and we returned to Judea. We had been in Egypt probably for 7 to 8 years. We were homesick, and we were truly delighted when the angels informed us that it was time. The birth of my son was an incredible event. The fact that God had arranged so that he would be protected, that he would have shelter, that the Romans would not be able to find him, that we would have what we needed to travel to Egypt and be safe. It was an incredible time for us, and we were so blessed. So I hope that as you celebrate the birth of Jesus, my son, that you understand that there was so much that went into his coming to walk the earth. The fact that the most powerful Roman failed to kill him, the small baby, is indeed the fact of the powers of God. So thank you for allowing me to speak this evening. And I know now that my wife is ready to speak.
Thank you, Joseph. We really appreciate it, your coming this evening. Okay, and next we will be talking with Mary, the mother of Jesus. Mary, thank you for joining us this evening as well. Would you like to begin with a message for our listeners?
Absolutely. I was blessed to be the mother of the baby Jesus. I was blessed to be among the first to lay my eyes upon him. I carried him in my womb, and I gave birth to him. The fact that I was so blessed, so selected, the fact that I was the beginning part of the miracle, the fact that God chose me to do this is a miraculous miracle. You see, I was the first to hold the baby Jesus. I was the first to look into his eyes, and I was the first to truly understand the beauty of this child. When I looked into the eyes of Jesus, it was not like looking into any other normal baby's eyes. It was almost as if you could look through him, through those eyes, and see the realms of heaven. The beauty of my son is indescribable. When he cried, it was like this soft cry. It wasn't like the screams that you often hear from babies. It was like from the first second that baby gave birth, that I gave birth to that baby, that he knew that he was special and that he was embarking on this incredible path that would affect the lives of billions. We had no way of truly understanding or knowing what this beautiful little baby was going to accomplish. All I could do was feel the love that a mother has for its child.
In what month of the year was Jesus born?
Jesus was born in what you would call the month of September. It was a month of beautiful weather for us. The weather was not cold as yet. And it was a time that there was still plenty of the warm months left. It was a beautiful time of the year.
What did the angels tell you about the baby you were carrying?
They said that I was carrying this very, very special child. They said that this baby was going to be the Messiah. We did not understand of which they were speaking. We were members of the Jewish faith, and we had heard of prophecies that there would be a time that God would come forth on this earth. The angels tried to explain to us just how important this baby was, how critical this baby would be to the formation of humans. They said that this child would have great wisdom and that this child would speak to many. They said to raise this child, knowing that there was a one God, to raise this child, knowing that this God would speak the truth in all things. But we truly, as simple people as we were, did not totally understand of which they were speaking.
When they told you all of this, what did you think and how did you react?
Joseph and I were astonished. We did not understand. We felt that we had lived a good life. We felt that we were good parents. But we did not truly understand why we had been selected to be the parents of this incredible child of which the angels spoke. We never truly understood the powers of Jesus until he began his ministries as an adult. But we accepted what they told us. We did what the angels told us to do, and we raised our child to the best of our abilities.
What were your religious beliefs before the birth of your baby?
We had heard the prophecies. We had gone to the temples. We had heard the priests speak. They told us of a single God. They told us that in the future there would be a Messiah. They told us many things. They told us of the prophet Moses, of the journey of the Israelites. We were familiar with the things of which the priests spoke, but we had absolutely no idea of the truth of what was to come.
Okay, we know your mother, Anne, accompanied you to Bethlehem. Did your father come along too?
No. My father had passed by this time, and Anne was a widow. She lived with us and helped care for the children, but sadly, my father was not of the earth at this point.
So did the angels direct you to where you could find lodging?
Yes. The angels gave us much instructions. We did not totally understand. Sometimes we would dream these images. Sometimes we would see mental forms. There were times that the angels even took human forms and would help guide us at times. We never totally understood what was taking place. We assumed that everyone had such occurrences, but we understood that there was a supernatural power and that these supernatural powers were coming to us with instructions. They told us not to fear and to simply accept what they were saying, and it all would be well.
Yes. Would you describe your accommodations to us?
Buildings were very simple in our time. They were often multi-roomed. They may have several stories. The inn to which we were led had multiple rooms on the first floor. They had a second floor where the innkeepers would sleep and where they had their children. They had vacant rooms on the first floor. There were also vacant rooms by the stable, and it was the rooms by the stable to which we were assigned. That is probably the reason why the story of Jesus being born and placed in a manger, that is probably where that story originated.
What was it like when you first held the newborn baby Jesus?
I cannot tell you the joy that was within my heart. All of the pain of giving birth disappeared, and for the first time, I held this very special little infant. It is amazing how great things come from such small bodies. The baby, we wrapped it, we cleaned it, we wrapped it in a blanket, and I held it very close to my heart. I could look into his eyes, and as I said earlier, there is no way to describe the joy that I felt.
What did you think when the wise men showed up?
I could not comprehend what was taking place. I had never seen such riches. They were adorned in magnificent clothes. They wore rings on their hands. The individuals that were with them were well armed. They were their bodyguards. They spoke through interpreters. They could not speak our language. But they said that they were sent by God, that they had received, that they knew that through prophecy that a Messiah was to be born. They said the angels came to them and told them that the event had taken place. They said that they would find the newborn baby in Bethlehem and that they should go and they should give riches to them because the gifts would be required for the safety of the child. They said that we should check with King Herod upon arriving into his territory, but that we should never disclose the location of the baby. They said that Herod told them that he wanted to hold and to worship the newborn, that he understood that the Messiah was to be born, and that he wanted to adore the child. We understood that he was lying to us. We understood that he only meant harm to the newborn baby, because that is what the angels had told them. They told us that they would not disclose the location of the child, and that they would return by another path, and that they would go home, but that we should leave immediately, because there would be a time that Herod realized that the location would not be disclosed by these individuals, and that he would come and he would search, and that we needed to be gone and safe at that time.
Okay, Joseph told us that they brought you frankincense, gold, and myrrh. Did they give you horses for your journey to Egypt?
They gave us mules upon which we could place our belongings and upon which we could ride. It was going to be a long and difficult journey, but that they would give us what we needed to survive. They said that we should not disclose the wealth that we were carrying, but that we should go to the money lenders and that we should trade the presents for the different types of monies that we would need on our journey, but that we should not carry more money than was necessary. They gave us many tips, and they told us the path that we should take. The wise men, as we refer to them, truly saved the lives of my family and the baby Jesus.
So what was life like in Egypt in those times?
The pharaohs were controlling the country. Romans had taken over, but that it was still a relatively safe place to be. It was outside of the jurisdiction of Herod. That was the most important thing. Herod had not passed the word down to Egypt that they should be watching out for us. He never suspected that we would have the means to flee and to go to Egypt. The pharaohs had lost a lot of the power. Caesar had gone to Egypt. Augustus had taken over the provinces of Egypt at the time. So Roman citizens were accepted. We never hinted in any way that our child was special. We never told them that we were fleeing. We just simply told them that we had wanted to live there in peace, and we had the funds that we needed to get lodging and to feed the family.
Did your mother go along with you to Egypt?
Yes, she accompanied us and was a huge help. She provided much help for raising the 3 children, and she was an incredible inspiration for us.
Mary, what would you tell our listeners about the celebration of Jesus?
I would tell them that the celebration of the birth of my son is an incredible opportunity to meditate upon the powers of God, the miracles that God provided the human race, all of the amazing details that God had to provide so that my child grew up to be an adult and to live a life and to provide words of faith that would help individuals for thousands of years.
And
Christmas is an incredibly important time to renew your faith and to speak to your family about the love of God.
Mary, thank you so much for joining us, and thank you for what you did to help the world learn about God. Do you have a final message for us?
Yes, never doubt that God exists. Never doubt that my son exists. Tell your family about the miracles of God. It is only through the parents that the young can be aware of the importance of living a good life. Speak to the young about the teachings of my son. Tell them of the simple words that he spoke of love, of coexistence. Tell them that you should never hate. Hate and anger will destroy your lives. Tell them that Christmas is a very, very special time. Tell them that there is much more to Christmas than simply receiving presents. Tell them it is a time of celebration of the birth of the greatest human that ever walked the earth. Tell them that it is a time that they need to understand, that they need to believe, and that they need to know that faith is the foundation that will provide a happy life for them. They must have faith that the Holy Spirits are to help them. They have to have faith that when they ask for guidance through prayer, that it will be given to them. They must understand that they will never prove the existence of my son and the existence of God, but that all things are related. They must be taught to understand that the unseen is often a fact. God is unseen. You will never see him. You will never know of his presence. He will never physically appear to the young, to the adults. But faith, that is what will make the world evolve. My son lived an incredible life. It was short, and in only 3 years, he changed the world. When my son spoke, people listened. Be an individual that speaks the words of God, and they will find that when they speak, others will also listen to them. So I thank you for this opportunity to be with you again tonight. Celebrate the birth of my child. Know the goodness of his life and have faith, and all will be well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Now we're going to speak to the Holy Spirit, whose birthday we celebrate. Father, would you like to begin with a message?
I would. As I stood here tonight and I listened to the words of my mother and my father, I know that goodness and mercy still abound. They spoke words of truth, the truth of my existence, the truth of the incredible powers of God, and the truth that there is a spark of God within every human being. That energy lays a foundation that every individual can follow the pathway of love, the pathway of coexistence, and especially the pathway of showing love and help for others. It is only through that pathway that you will find true happiness in life. It is a time where you celebrate my birth. I want you to make this a most joyous occasion where you speak of love to your family, where you show them that it is better to give than to receive, and where you speak of a miracle that took place thousands of years ago that is still remembered by billions of people.
Okay. We are all aware that you were God incarnate. Why did you want to live the life of a human?
I wanted all humans to understand that I was willing to live a life where I shared all of their emotions. I loved, I felt pain, I felt grief, I felt all of the emotions that humans feel. I wanted the generations that were to come to understand that I had truly lived a life, the same life that all humans live. I wanted to participate in the emotions of humans. I wanted to see the suffering and understand it. And I wanted those around me to understand that I was doing all of these things so that they would realize that the God that presides over their world is capable of the same emotion and understanding the same ways of living that they all experience.
Was Herod wanting to kill you part of your life plan, or was it an event outside of your plan?
It was an opportunity for Herod to make the proper decision. When a life plan for any human is made, there are alternative paths. It would have been far better had Herod made the decision that he would truly adore and worship the newborn baby. But Herod made the wrong choice. He decided that greed and personal power were more important to him than making the proper decisions. So you see, there were two ways that things could have gone. Herod could have made the right decision, and there was an alternative plan in which we would not have had to flee to Egypt. But he made the wrong decision, as humans make wrong decisions throughout history. And there was indeed a plan if he was to make the decision that he did.
Was there ever a time that your life was in danger?
Had I not fled, Herod would have indeed killed me. But the angels protected my family and things, and my life was saved. And because of the decisions made by my family and the angels, I was able to fulfill my life plan.
Herod wound up slaughtering the young boys of Bethlehem. Why did you allow this terrible brutality?
As you know, I provide free will
Yes.
to all humans. And humans can make terrible decisions and create a karma for their decisions. Keep in mind that all of the infants that he killed returned to my heaven and were greeted and were provided with alternative life plans. It is on the decisions that Herod made created terrible karmas for him.
Did the Star of Bethlehem really exist, and what was its main purpose?
We wanted certain individuals to be led to the Christ child. We aligned stars that would seem to point to the town of Bethlehem. We wanted individuals, normal individuals, not people of wealth. We wanted navigational system for the wise men to find Bethlehem. So there was a temporary alignment of the stars that made them appear as one and assisted in guiding those that we wanted to find the Christ child.
Yeah. Did anyone record the details of your birth?
No. Keep in mind that individuals did not realize the importance. The wise men did, and they told their scribes, and things were written down. But there was no one in the Jewish community that made notes of my birth. It was strictly through words that were passed on through generations that the story of my birth was preserved.
So if no one recorded the details of your birth, how did the details become part of the Bible? Just stories?
Yes. As my family returned to Judea, they reestablished a home and they made friends, and stories were told to the individuals. As I grew older, I told my disciples and my followers the story of my birth. I told them how the angels had saved my life and how Herod had tried to kill me. And those stories were passed on through the ages. There came a time within generations of my death that the stories were written and incorporated into Gospels, but there were many renditions of my birth. The truth is as you were told tonight, but there were stories of my birth that were not recorded accurately.
How did the wise men learn of your birth and then find you?
The angels came to them. The prophets proclaimed through the years that there would be a Messiah born to the Jewish people, that the Son of God would return, and that he would lead the people. The wise men were told by angels that the prophecy had come true, that they should follow the star in the sky to the town of Bethlehem, and that they would find that a woman had given birth to the individual that would be the Messiah, that would bring truth, that would speak of the one God, and that they should go to see this child, that it would be the only time that individuals would be able to see the Son of God and to help preserve the baby's future so that he could proclaim the truth to the masses.
What do you think as you see people around the world celebrate your birth?
It pleases me that so many individuals celebrate my birth. It displeases me to see the commercialization that has taken place. It is a time for showing love, for showing charity, and for explaining to the young that anything is possible when you have faith in God. Many people make it simply a time of giving. They spend huge amounts of money on presents. I would far rather that they use this money to help others. There are many people in need, and if they use the money that they wasted on extravagant presents to help others, they could do much good. I want the celebration of my birth to be a time of love and a time of understanding. It is fine to give presents. You must impress the young. It is far better to give of themselves than it is to receive presents of extravagance. It is fine to give modest presents to the young and to each other. That is a way of celebration. But never lose fact of the true reason. I was born to live a life where I explained the truth of God to many. It should be a time for you to explain to your family the truth of God as well. God is simply love. God is all of the things that is good in this world. These are the things that you should tell the young and your family and those around you and those suffering. It should be a time of great cheer.
Thank you, Lord, for being part of our messages this evening. Do you have a final message for us?
Yes. As you celebrate this time of celebration of my birth, know that God truly exists for the betterment of all humans. Know that the only way that humans can evolve in the way that I want them to evolve is to show love and charity towards others. Humans need to live a simple life. They need to use common sense in their everyday lives, and they need to continuously show love. They need to suppress anger, and they need to suppress hatred. They need to do all that can bring justice and hope to others. You see, it is only through living this simple life of love that you will find happiness. If you do not follow those commandments, then you have never known love, true love and happiness. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Follow that simple command in all things, and you will find that your life will improve, you will be happier, and you will assure yourself that when you pass from this earth, that you will enter a heaven in which all things are possible. Heaven is the most incredible place of which you can imagine. Living a good life will assure that when you arrive there, that you will be able to enjoy all of its benefits. Living a good life will assure that you do not create karmas that will have a negative effect on your future lives. This is a time of meditation, and it is a time of faith. Take advantage of it. Christmas only comes but once during your year, and make sure that you waste none of it in pursuing things that will bring you unhappiness and will hurt you in this life and in your future lives. I bless all of you that are listening. Thank you so much. Know that Christmas truly is real and the time of my birth. Goodbye.
Thank you, Lord.
Okay, guys. Next week, Christmas Eve is on a Sunday, so we will not be doing a live show. The following week, we will be asking the guides and angels for predictions concerning the new year. Join us in the chat room and ask your own questions.
I'd like to thank you all for joining us this evening. We've been trying to bring you the truth about history by speaking to the souls that lived the events, because the only way you can understand events of the past, it helps you to prepare for the future. So anyway, everybody have a wonderful Christmas. God bless you all.
Okay, thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed the show tonight. Tell your friends about it. It'll help them have a happier Christmas. So join us Sundays at 9 p.m. Eastern Time on the ParaX Radio Network.
Thanks for listening to Channeling History. Tune in again next week for another electrifying episode, as we never know who will make an appearance or who will come through the portal. Any rebroadcast or other use of this program without explicit permission is strictly prohibited. Copyright 2020. Our Story Begins by Kevin MacLeod, licensed through Incompetech.com.